Anyway, I'll stop complaining. Thank you for being here. We are, and thanks for being on Zoom. Today's case, not mind, not Buddha. And the case that's in the Mumonkan is a shortened version of the case that is in the Blue Cliff record. So I'm going to read the case from the Blue Cliff record. So it's much longer than what was presented here, but this is the full case. And the other thing is that the players in the Mumonkan were kind of flipped, probably on purpose. So, main case. Nansen called on Master Hyakujo Nibbana. Hyakujo asked, have the sages since time immemorial had a teaching they didn't tell anyone? Nansen said, yes. Hyakujo said, what is the teaching they didn't tell anyone? Nansen said, it is not mind, it is not Buddha, it is not a thing. Hyakujo said, you said it. Nansen said, that's all I know. What about you? Hyakujo said, I'm not a great teacher. How would I know whether it has been told or not? Nansen said, I don't understand. Hyakujo said, I've already told you too much. So, Mumon's commentary, Nansen was merely asked a question. Actually, in the original, it's Hyakujo who was being asked the question. So Hyakujo was merely asked the question, and he exhausted all his possessions at once and was reduced to nothing. The verse, speaking too much degrades virtue. No words are truly effective. Even though the great ocean should change, it can never be communicated to you. So, there's nothing that we haven't already talked about. It's in this koan. The problem with Zen, the problem with koans, the problem with enlightenment in and of itself is talking about it. It's, the worst crime you can commit is actually trying to reduce your practice to the ineffective description of words. So yeah, it's not so much that there isn't a Dharma that hasn't been taught, it's that the Dharma can't be taught. It can't be spoken about. It's something else. Once you put it into words, it becomes this subject, object, verb, preposition. It enters into this structure that is not it. So this instance, this awareness, this enlightenment, by the time it's developed into any kind of description, is gone. It doesn't exist. You can only have this by direct experience. Renzai took care of this with his shout. The other teachers, used other methods. The teacher that had the finger pointing, and, somebody tried to imitate it, got his finger cut off. And someone who tried to out-shout Renzai, got picked up and shoved. So it's this vital, instantaneous, before preconception, pre-verbalization, pre-thought, direct experience that really cannot be described. However, there's so many books So many Dharma talks, so much verbiage that we go on and on and on about this stuff. But what else do we have? This is our instrument of communication. So it's it's the I can't even say it's the lesser of the evils. It's the evil of the evils. It's the necessary evil we engage in to have these conversations, even if it is to talk about what we can't talk about and say that this is what it isn't. So we have this constant talk about, and it is much easier to describe what Zen is not than it is to describe what it is. Because what it is going to be only the direct experience of this instantaneous now, of this infinite now, which is going to be completely individual and infinitely different for everyone who experiences it. How do you encapsulate that in a word or say, this is what it is? There's no way to say that. Impossible. So here we are. We do. And I think it's true that, I always feel at a loss especially when someone asks me a question, or a new practitioner or person who's interested in Zen asks me, well, what is this Zen? And I'm like, oh God. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It doesn't exist in words that it can be described, but I have to say something. There has to be some way of describing this whole emptiness, this undifferentiated everythingness that in which we live. And at the same time that there are no words, there are also no limit to the number of words you can use to this. And I liked what Yamada Roshi, the way he describes it, he says, change the emphasis to on this. This is not mind. This is not Buddha. This is not a thing. So the question to answer is, well, why isn't it? And if you understand why it isn't mind, why it isn't the real, why it's not a thing, then it makes it, for me, it made it a little bit easier, because it's a direct experience, and experience is always before words. By the time the experience gets to your brain and then becomes a concept and then formulates language to describe that concept, that experience is gone. That awareness is moved on to something else. Now it's a story that, if you're good at telling stories, then it's a good story. If you're bad at telling stories, it's a bad story. Either way, it's still there. You just have to do your best. Because there's nothing, we don't have anything better other than to just do this. And this is, Nike, stole the Zen, stole. I'm sure they, whatever their slogan. Their slogan is the perfect Zen slogan. Just do it.
Oh,
Yeah. Just do it.
It is.
Well, whatever it is. Yeah. And it is exactly what's in front of you. Just take care of it. And it's really about just taking care of it and moving on, because getting stuck with taking care of something or getting stuck in a story about something is not it either. Because as soon as you've had that experience, as soon as you've taken that taken care of that issue, taken care of that moment, what's next? Take care of what's next. After you eat your breakfast, wash your bowls. That's all it is. It's each moment after moment. And there's no end to it. It never stops. We sit down and we stop and we have these Dharma talks, which are just a complete waste of air. And we feel like we've done something. I feel like I read the koan, I studied it, I did the years of work to pass on these koans. Now what? So I go back and talk about the same koans over and over again. And there is a point to that. The teaching has to be done. I mean, how many times did the Buddha have to tell people over and over and over again not to do stuff, and they do it? Then it ended up in the Vinaya as a rule. So that's how rules happen. That's why some of those rules sound pretty funny, because people do funny things, and they were reactionary in that sense. So don't do harm, but then you've got to elucidate what that is. Sometimes you have to be more careful and detailed about how not to do harm. Yeah, killing your friend was not a good idea, so don't kill. Or killing your enemy. It causes pain. Stealing, lying, talking about others' problems, all those things. Those became rules because that's what people did, and it created problems. So now we have a rule. But those are all after the fact. They're not about the direct experience. But to create the space for this practice to happen, you have forms and rules and guidelines and ways of interacting, ways and a contract about how we treat each other. So all these rules are necessary. All the forms are necessary. The forms, work. And I didn't recognize, why the necessity for all those forms until I went to my first 7-day retreat. And you're not talking, and by the third or fourth day, you're in pain, you're exhausted.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I know. Something to look forward to. And you can barely think straight because you're really trying not to think at all. But what you've got are the forms, and the forms tell people how to move, how to operate, where to go, what to do, which way to turn, so you're not running into each other. And so that's when I realized how it's like, I can, because I memorized these forms and my body knows the forms, I can do this. I don't have to worry about speaking to people or turning the wrong way or what time to be someplace. Just follow the schedule, just do the forms. And that gives you the space to do the practice. So the talking has its place, the rules have its place, the forms have its place, but it's not it. Still not it. You still got to get to it. You still have to directly experience it. And that's what all these other things that surround this practice allow you to get to. It looks a little fussy to people, and I get that all the time. Why are we doing this? And we're like, well, because it works. That's the only reason. Because it serves a function, and it does help forward the practice. It gives you an anchor to hang on to when everything else is gone, because that is the intent, is to have everything gone, to have nothing to hang on to. No thought, no discursive arguments going on in your head, just this. And to get to just this, all the other stuff has to be taken care of. All the logistics. So the forms are just logistics. The rules are just logistics. So to give yourself the space. And that's when I started incorporating some of these forms at home, because I, just to be able to get to the cushion and have, the space to reinforce my practice. What do I need? What logistical things do I need to take care of to be able to get to it? So it worked. It directly translated to my life. That's what I appreciate about the practice. is that yes, it is not the forms. It is not sitting on the cushion. It is not the Buddha, the mind, the stories, the Dharma talks. That's not it. Those are all logistical things that get you to that experience, to that direct, intimate experience of it, of really not knowing, of no mind, of no self, of emptiness. But in order to do that, you've got to create the environment that takes care of all the stuff that has to be there. And the discussion is it's perfect because it's not that they didn't teach it, it's that they can't. There's no way to teach this. So, and then that's not the question I get. So, what does Buddhism teach you? Oh my God, horrible question. But because that's what people are looking for. They're looking to hang on to something.
What absolutely is very important, is method.
Yeah.
That Buddhism is an approach to living, a way. It's a way. It's not a thing. It's not an object. So it can never be an it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
However, you can describe the method.
Yeah.
You can describe it, and you can describe the inclusiveness that happens as a result of the methodology that we practice. So that's where I end up going with those kinds of questions. Yeah. And then, depending on, there's some people who know enough about Buddhism to be able that I can then say, all of that is just logistics. And I still, I use Maizumi Roshi's word very carefully because it literally just struck me when he called Zazen a gimmick. So insulting. But
so Zazen's an it.
Yeah. No.
You do Zazen, so that's an it.
Well, Zazen, no.
It's a means, but Zazen's a means.
Zazen's a trick to get you to it. It's a gimmick. It's not it itself.
No, it's not. Right. No, it's not.
No.
It's a means to a method. It's not a mean. Again, there's no it there, right?
There's no it.
There's no it.
No it.
So I can't give you it.
Do you see how problematic this language is? Trying to talk about it after we just read Not Mind, Not Buddha, we're trying to talk. So, what do we do with this? Why isn't it it? Why isn't it Buddha? Why isn't it mind? Why isn't it Zazen? Why isn't it Pinhead? Why isn't it? If you understand why it isn't, then it's easier to talk about. And that's the negation. But well, it's not this, it's not that, and but it works. And it's what and certainly there's some very good writing. I mean, Alan Watts is a wonderful writer about who describes how practice works and how Buddhism works. I don't have his eloquence, but certainly there are people out there who do write and wax rhapsodically about the virtues of Zen and Zen practice. And I would refer people if they want to read a book. And I said, well, and after you're done with all that reading, then you still have to experience it, because that's not it either. But it is a way of tricking the mind, tricking the body, tricking your being into experiencing it, which can't be described. It doesn't exist in words, and it can't be taught. So even the Buddha didn't teach it. 40 years of teaching after his realization, he never taught what it was, because it can't be taught. It has to be directly experienced. That's the only place it exists. And if you're able to describe it, not it.
Well, you could say that, the other problem is that it changes moment to moment. And so, what seemed like, it a second ago is no longer it. You have to confront your life again in that new moment and deal with it appropriately at that stage.
Mm-hmm.
So another reason you can't be it, because there is nothing to hold down or pin down or to freeze.
No. Yeah. And the verse is, speaking too much degrades virtue. No words are truly effective. Even though the great ocean should change, it can never be communicated to you. You yourself can only experience it. And it must be like seeing a color and trying to describe it, because we know on some level that each of us see color differently. We don't see the same green or red or blue, but we're not inside each other's heads. We can't be inside each other's experience of that color, so we can't describe it for somebody else. That experience of that color is completely individual, and most likely, as far as we can tell, because even scientifically we have difficulty proving it, most likely that experience of color is different for everybody who sees it. There are some people, because most human beings have 3 color rods. There are some human beings who have 4, but they live in a 3 color rod world. So even if they have this more, I'm going to guess that it might be more vibrant, I have no idea, experience of color, how do they describe it? Especially to someone who's never seen it. So no one else has your experience of it, of this moment, of this enlightenment experience. So there's no way to describe it for somebody else, because they can't have your experience of it ever. So this is. I was gonna. This month is also Hana Matsuri, which is the celebration of Buddha's birth. Which is on the 10th. I'm not here, but we'll do it sometimes later in the month. I'm trying to gather all the stuff. There's a specific altar for celebrating the birth of Buddha. Because when he was born, of course, he was born out of the side of his mother and from a virgin. It was a virgin birth, of course. So he popped out of the womb and instantly took 7 steps. Flower petals rained down as he took these steps. And he stopped after the 7 steps and he pointed to the sky, and pointed to the earth, and said, I alone am the world honored one. So, I mean, the first time I heard that, I thought, the kid was born a narcissist. And this is what we have as a spiritual leader. But we have hopefully better interpretations of what was meant by this I alone. And truly, that is the experience. When you have that experience, it is your experience alone. You are standing in this oneness, completely unique and completely alone. Completely alone. Your experience is not shared with everybody else, and you're having this experience with everyone else. And so there is this no separation of loneness, this experience of oneness that is completely unique for yourself. And that's the I alone that they say, that we were meant to say. Do I believe that he was able to walk and talk as soon as he was born? No. Sorry, not buying it. But it's a nice story. And what's the point of the story? So what do we do with that presentation of the Buddha Dharma? What do we do with that of his birth? So here we are with this. Not mind, not Buddha, not a thing. Then what is it? What are you left with? I dare you to speak. Oh, okay. There's an apology from Kirk. He had to leave early, so he says, sorry to leave early, everybody. Hey, David.
Can you just ask a question, or is it okay to ask?
Please. Yeah.
I don't know what's on the many dynamics of form. I love business form, as you do, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
One thing seems to be very significant, and that is that it's face-to-face transmission.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if you could speak to that a little bit, because it seems like when you look at the eyes, or you study neuroscience in the eyes, this is as direct as it gets, is the ability to see, perceive, feel, and experience somebody. When I go to church, it's face to congregation. There is no real face-to-face, direct, immediate intimacy like Dokusan or whatnot. So I'm just wondering if you could speak to that part of the form. Very powerful.
It is. And face-to-face or mind-to-mind transmission. It's really about, and still the experience of any two people is going to be completely unique. But are we sharing? What are we doing with those individual experiences? How are they manifesting in real life? That's really what Dokusan is all about. It's about the teacher, and because what koans do is, I love Tenshin's description of just make unevenness even. So, or I prefer the word balance. So you're learning, what the koans teach you is how to be in balance with many other people. And what the teacher sees in the student is how they're operating. They basically how are you using your practice in the Sangha, in the world, and what you're doing in your life. And so you're meeting face to face to have that discussion, and to work on expanding that experience so that it's more and more inclusive every single time. Because all the koans are pointing to the same thing. So technically, there's only one. Excuse me. Singing for talking. Since they're all pointing the same thing, you could say that you answered the same way, but there are myriad different ways of saying the same thing. There are myriad different expressions of the same experience, because we're all having the same human experience. 8 billion people, 8 billion experiences, and the koan gives us access to be able to relate directly and be in balance with all of those experiences as much as possible. That's why the work is that find in yourself the the experience that's appropriate for that moment or that context. Because even though it's all pointing to the same thing, the moment that it happens is different, the context in which it happens is different, the environment in which you are expressing it is different. So
you're different. And you're different.
Yeah, and every time that's why you introduce yourself. Every time you go into Daisang or Dokusan, you're a new person. Every single time. And whoever the teacher is a new person. So it's that reintroduction I'm new. I'm here to present something new. To say something new, experience something new, experience this moment, because it is not stuck anywhere. So oneness does not mean sameness, does not mean redundancy. So and I think that my guess is that people, I think one of the things that the Judeo-Christian Islamic faiths offer some form of certainty. So because people want, this God for it to be this particular way, and there's none of that in Buddhism. There's nothing to be certain of. There's no place to stand except in your own direct experience. No one's going to do that for you. So there's that's and being comfortable in that space is not easy. So that's what this is all about, and that's what that mind-to-mind transmission is all about. Because if the teacher's doing their job, they will have thrown every obstacle in your way to see what you can do. How are you going to take care of this? So, and it's been a wonderful experience, because it took me a while to figure out, because I still kept separating. There's my Zen world, and then there was my Kaiser world. And it wasn't until I was head trainee, and I did the head trainee the worst possible way, because I went into detention. I said, "Here's my plan. This is what I would like to do, and this is how I think I can do head training." And I expected him to say no, but no, he said yes, which now I had to make it work. So I had a job in which I was telecommuting most of the time anyway. So I arranged to be on Alton from Thursday through Tuesday, so 4 days out of every week, and every 7 days session. And there was one week, that I attended a staff meeting at Kaiser on Wednesday. Drove up to Yokoti Wednesday night, got up for a staff meeting on Thursday morning. Exact same issues. Exact topic for topic. I was like, oh my God, Kaiser is just a great big Zen center.
or your Koji is just a great Kaiser.
Or you're a great Kaiser. Either way, I was like, the practice isn't different, just because it's in a different place.
That's why, to me, that's why you got the response that Zazen is a gimmick, because it's enabling us to learn how to pay attention in the present moment, in a common Christian where there's no distractions.
Yeah.
But now, go outside and get cut off on the first time you try to exit the building and see how you do.
Yeah.
Are you still on the Christian? Are you still maintaining your ability to deal with that immediately in all of its presentation, or are you screaming at the other driver?
Well, if screaming at the other driver is what needs to be done, then that's what you do.
Yeah.
So
that's happened. In fact, you've already done
it. But because what people get stuck with is they want this all the time, and so they take this into traffic, and that doesn't work. You have to be appropriate, and all of it is practice. There's nothing left out of the practice, nothing that isn't practice out there. What is important is the awareness of it. The awareness of it, hopefully before you do stuff, and that gives you, and Zazen does give you this space to make the choices. And there's this huge discussion I've been going back and forth between these determinism and free will. Since all things arise out of dependent conditions, and the cliche is it couldn't have happened any other way. So is this all predetermined? And then, of course, there's the what's the chaos theory? Heisenberg. Is it Heisenberg? The book. Yeah. So, yeah, it may not have been able to happen in the other way, but you still have an infinite number of choices, and you make all of those choices, and on the quantum level. So I don't think it's as deterministic as Sapolsky wants us to believe, but 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 he does. Excellent book, and I really appreciate his. If indeed we don't have free will, we would have to revamp our entire judicial system, which I'm all for.
Well, I think it's a little of both.
Yeah.
It's not one or the other.
Yeah, and how will we ever know? Because it's difficult to prove one way or the other. Just like trying to prove God, you can neither prove or disprove an infinite. And having these discussions are purely academic anyway. So what do we get?
That's a God that no one believes in. This theoretical theistic God is a God that no one believes in.
Yeah, yeah. Because because you run into all kinds of things when you say that God is infinite, and that's like the whole list of problems. Yeah. Yeah, no. Anyway, the point is, what this practice is about taking care of what's right here, right now. All these academic discussions are wonderful entertainment, but still not it. And I love having those discussions, but I still have to take care. What am I going to do when someone cuts me off on the freeway? Because that's going to happen. It happens all the time. What am I going to do when my cat rips open an envelope and tears up mail that I needed to pay attention to because I left it sitting there? So
when the Dow drops 2,000 points, almost 2,000 points in a day.
Yeah. And the impact on your retirement is palpable.
We only lost like $1.25 trillion. Hardly missed it.
I mean, those are numbers. I have no concept of what $1 trillion is. I mean, it's a word, but what does that mean? Certainly, to a certain extent, I know that my income is dependent on the stock market because that's how my pension is invested. So yeah, there is an impact. But how do I take care of that impact is really the point. I don't have a lot of control over, what the powers that be do that are having this effect. But I do have control or choice, I think, over how I respond to it, how I take care of it, how I take care of myself, how I take care of others that are going through this. So, intimacy is not out there. Intimacy is here. Compassion is not out there. Empathy is not out there. It's this infinitely intimate experience of not knowing, because you can't know it consciously. You can't talk about it. You can't teach it. You can only directly, intimately experience it. So yeah, you have what the Buddha didn't teach, couldn't teach, because he couldn't describe it himself, because he would have had to use words.
That's a question.
Please.
I'm 55. Both of my parents died at different times. And what a powerful teaching it was to not go to the head, but try to be as present as possible with my parents. Very challenging, very sad. I can really feel the emotion coming up now. For you, how do you experience the transmission of mind to mind with your own mom versus other places and other instances where you're interfacing with people, you find that since she is your mom, that there's a different quality or characteristic to that transmission or experience than you find in other things, or is it all just simply the same thing?
Well, each moment is different. My mother has Alzheimer's, so she pretends that she knows who I am because she was told who I was. She doesn't really remember. So she doesn't remember anything of our life together at this point. So when I go to visit her, I just sit with her and I can just be present. How are you? Right here, right now. Are you eating? Are you eating? Are they treating you well? And just be present with where she is. I can't. I mean, this has been a long process, and she's progressing along as expectedly. So I'm sorry that she's suffering from this, but it is what it is expected. So I just have to take care of it as it is. So my sister's in an entirely different place with this, because she knows that she can depend on me to not make emotional decisions. So the call a couple weeks ago was they found some lumps in her breast. What do we do? And I said, well, how bad is it? And what will kill her first? So, because we're all going to die, she's going to die, and she's not going to understand chemotherapy or radiation therapy right now. So the choice was we keep her comfortable and not treat it. Still monitoring it, because at some point we'll have to get to pain management, but right now it's not bothering her. She's not even aware. She doesn't know if their house, the house that she spent most of her life in, burned down. And there's no reason for me to tell her. So just being in that moment and making decisions about what's necessary. What can she control? What can she be with? So I was surprised. There was a lot. Just last Sunday I was there. That I walked up to the door and she saw me through the window and she told whoever was coming to the door that was my son. And I went, okay, she's having a good day. Or she remembers more recently when she was told who I was, because several months ago when we were sitting at her neurologist's office, her neurologist asked her who I was, and she thought I was her brother. Went through the same thing with my father. My father was a little bit different because he had a fall that they should have left him dead. He was resuscitated. And when he came back, he was completely psychotic and paralyzed. He didn't know who I was either. So it was a little bit more of a shock with him, but I had to be there. There was one day he was in assisted living for a while, and he had 3 pieces of paper in front of him, and he said, I'm supposed to have 4. And he was obsessing over this missing 4th piece of paper. And he kept looking over at his roommate saying, I think he stole it, I think he stole it. But, Dad, you've got 3. Let's talk about these 3. Let's be satisfied with the 3. and then he was fine for about 2 seconds. So okay, 3's good. And then he'd start sorting, and he'd get to 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. He was off again. And I just sat there, and I said, okay. And I just had to be with him as he was. So is that my natural way of being, or did I get to that place because of this practice? Impossible to know, because there's no other me to compare myself with, to say that, it's only because of Buddhism that I'm so good. I'm just taking care of the moment as it comes up. I don't know what it would be. But yeah, it's important to meet people where they are. And that's what Doksan is meeting meeting the student, meeting the teacher where they are, that particular moment, that particular day, that particular koan, that particular time. Because every single time it's new. Every single time I encounter, even though I know my mother she says the same thing over and over again because she has a script. She sees, I completely misunderstood her one time. She was saying, because there was a clock across the room from her where she's staying, and it says the time, the date, and the day. And so she was saying, it's 4:07, it's Sunday, but I don't know what comes after. And it took me a while to realize what she was saying. She didn't know what came after Sunday. She didn't know the order of the days. But she knew that she should know. So she was troubled by that because she kept saying it over again. She was a little agitated. So paying attention to those cues and taking care of it, I finally said to her, it's okay that you don't know. You don't need to know. Let's just pay attention to Sunday. Sunday's fine. And then she calmed down. So, and whereas my sister would have been, it's Monday, Mom, it's Monday. It's always been Monday. Okay, not helpful.
A good quotation about this is the person that is so concerned about right and wrong becomes the person of right and wrong.
Yeah.
I think I tend to do that a lot. But so that's your sister. She's about right and wrong.
Yeah.
No, this is the right answer. That's the wrong answer. What you were saying, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're not worried about right and wrong here.
Yeah.
It's about what's going on.
Yeah.
But I think your question too, because my mom's 98, so I have to be, careful, thoughtful about what's going on with her all the time. Our moms are our moms. That's who they are. And moms come in infinite varieties, and we have certain feelings about them, good or bad. But that's different than anyone else in the world. So when we work with them, when we deal with whatever's going on with them, we have to be cognizant of that, appreciate that, and deal with it as such in that moment. That's my observation of that.
Yeah. All right. We're running a little behind. All right. Questions, David? Comments?